Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Business Monday. Hi, Ronette.
Hey, Jen, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. It's been a crazy week, but it's a good one so far. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. All is well.
Good. We're excited that you decided to join us again for Business Monday. I hope you've been watching the news this week. As we all know, we lost our great Congressman Lewis, and his body was flown into Andrews Air Force Base today. They transported him around DC to a lot of the historic landmarks. You know, he visited Black Lives Matter, the new African American Museum, and so many other landmarks. And he's currently lying in state at the US Capitol in the Rotunda. And I think he'll be there until tomorrow evening. I'm so grateful that America is paying tribute to this great man. And again, you know, Ronette, did you want to say something?
Absolutely.
Yeah, he's so deserving of that and so much more. So we're so grateful for our steady listeners. We appreciate all the questions that you hit us with, and we hope that we've answered them to your satisfaction. And we're also appreciative of a lot of the feedback that we've been getting. And Ronette's been getting quite a bit. I've been getting quite a bit. And we're glad that, you know, we're making a difference in some people's lives. And we've, you know, given people that little extra push to go ahead and start that business. And we're just so excited to hear that. You know, we just started this as a conversation, as we said, and we're glad that, you know, you're finding some value and some usefulness with it. We had a great show last week with Jim Scott from Penn & Scott, the company that does my audits and my taxes and so on and so forth. And Ronette's going to recap our discussion with Jim.
Oh, thank you, Jan. Yes, we truly had a great discussion, a great conversation with Jim Scott. He just gave us so much knowledge. But as you stated, Jim Scott discussed with us tax structures and financial planning. And Jim is the co-founder and senior managing partner of Penn & Scott. This company is also African-American and Jewish-owned CPA firm. So his partner as well, he has a partner as well. But they are one of the top 50 companies that provide tax planning services in government contracting, real estate, general and professional services, restaurants, retail, and small businesses. They also provide accounting system audits, training classes in finances, and QuickBooks. And some of the advice that Jim shared with us that I'd like to share with you all today is when you start your business, he said, one of the things you should do is hire an accountant. That should be your first or your second hire, is hire an accountant. And now he also stated that QuickBooks is a great tool, but it is not an accountant. Hire an accountant. Invest in one. And he also recommended that you join your local Chamber of Commerce to help build your business because it provides so many resources to small businesses. And Jim also provides financial guidance to veterans twice a year through the Montgomery County Chamber of Commerce. So again, Jim, thank you so much for joining us. We truly enjoyed you last week. And today we have a wonderful, wonderful special guest. Tracy Primore, the founder of TLT Solutions, is joining us today, and we are so excited. So welcome, Tracy Primore.
Yes, Tracy and I go back. We met a few years ago. And hi, Tracy.
Hey, how are you ladies doing?
Great. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Yes, I've been knowing you for only a few years, but it seems like we've been knowing each other for so much longer. I've met your wonderful son, Noah, and hopefully we'll have a visit from him today, and your husband, Derek, and I hope that they are both well. So.
They're both well, yes. He's downstairs at camp right now. I think it's about to let out, so you might see him.
Okay, great. Okay.
Online camp. He's at online camp. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Virtual, huh? Everything's virtual these days.
Amazing what they're doing.
Tracy, thank you so much again for joining Ronette and I for Business Monday. We started this as just a conversation between the two of us because we used to watch, Instagram once the pandemic hit. the coronavirus, and we saw that they had a lot of entertainment, music, comedy, but nothing of structure as far as, what people might want to do with their lives outside of just everything that they normally do. So, we were wanted to just try to aspire potential future business owners and entrepreneurs for people who are just sitting at home thinking of, what do I want to do with my life? So, we decided to come up with Business Monday, and here we are. So we're so excited that you agreed to come with us. So I invested in one of your hotel properties. So, you're going to talk about what you do and so on and so forth in Waldorf, Maryland. One of my friends gathered together a few of their friends, and you came out and talked to us about generational wealth, and you briefed us on available properties and recommended that we invest in. And you helped us understand your plight of helping minorities, and in particular women, get into the hotel ownership business. And today I'm so grateful that you did that. First, I'd like you to tell us a little bit about yourself, why you decided to start your business, and then tell us what your company does.
Sure. So I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri. I've been in the DC area for about 20 years. I can't believe when I say that, about 20 years. But I started my career out in healthcare, actually, as a healthcare administrator. And I started investing in real estate as a way to expand upon my retirement funds. I was introduced to Rich Dad Poor Dad, a book by Robert Kiyosaki, by my financial advisor when I first moved to DC. And as a part of her onboarding process, she required all of her clients to read Rich Dad Poor Dad. And it really changed my life as far as my perspective on wealth and how I would go about spending my money. At the time, I think I was a big shoe shopper. I spent my weekends at Saks and Neiman buying shoes. And then when I found real estate, I had a new hobby, and I no longer was spending all of my money on shoes, but buying properties and creating passive income. So I did keep my day job, and I invested as, like I said, a money-making hobby. So I didn't play golf, or really didn't have a hobby. Probably still don't have any big hobbies other than traveling. And so I spent my time, looking for properties and fixing them up and then renting them out and creating passive income. So when I decided to leave the healthcare field and focus 100% on real estate, I had helped a number of friends and family members create their real estate portfolios, and also received a lot of calls from people. And I figured, I can't do as many dinners and lunches and phone calls. So why not shift my business focus to real estate investing? Because that really was a passion of mine, to be a full-time investor. So as I had my child and I got married, and life on the road was not going to work the way my job had been before, I decided to focus on real estate investing. And I wanted to be able to help other people use real estate as a vehicle for wealth creation. So as I was contemplating a job change and just a lot of different personal changes that were going on, I had the confidence to start into a new part of my life and journey, because I had amassed enough passive income on my real estate investments to be able to, have the essentials, pay for food and shelter. So it wasn't scary knowing that I could pay the bills if things didn't work out in a different direction. So I wanted everybody to feel that sense of comfort, to have that financial freedom that I felt that I only really created because of my real estate investments. My full-time job didn't necessarily give me that. It did give me some cash to invest, but it really didn't set me up for a long-term future of passive income.
Oh, I love that.
Very interesting.
So the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, you think, so what in there helped you change your trajectory from your healthcare to real estate investment or into investments?
Yeah, so initially, of course, it did, and it just opened my eye to, so at the time, I was looking for a house. house to live in, and I was looking at a certain price range. And once I read that book and understood about real estate investment, passive income, I decided to buy a smaller house and then buy an investment property so that I could create the passive income. So what he teaches you is about the whole story, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. His rich dad was his friend's father who invested in real estate and businesses, and how he amassed so much wealth, while his parents or his father was, I think he worked in education, and he had a PhD, and he was, considered very bright, but he was broke because he just had the great, the good day job and a pension. But what he was trying to teach us all is that you have to create wealth, and wealth is where you're able to create income that you don't have to work for. So whether the job goes away, you get laid off, or whatever, might happen, particularly like we're going through now with the pandemic, you would still have cash, coming in. You'd still have income coming in, and that you don't necessarily, you have to do some work, right? There's nothing that's zero work, but it is truly passive in the sense that with my portfolio, I was maybe putting in a day, a month at most. And that was because I wanted to go find more properties, not the actual one property. Once you have it rented, you'll get phone calls here and there, but it's really not a lot of work for the value that you create. I recently just sold the very first investment property I bought. And when I did the calculation, I made $200,000. That was a longer time frame of a hold than I expected because of the downturn in 2008. But still, to create I invested $13,500, and to have created, close to $200,000 from passive income and capital appreciation. I mean, I don't know. I don't know anything better to do, especially when you're able, you only have a little bit of money. And that's all I had was a little bit of money. I used a bonus to buy that property with the $13,500.
I love it. I love it. So in addition to the investment properties, what else do you do? What else does your business do?
Well, so what our business does, we educate people. And so really the mission is to educate and empower people to build wealth through real estate. So there's many vehicles to build wealth. I just happen to choose real estate because I'm passionate about it and because it makes sense to me. There's many ways that you can do that, but we're constantly working to build community so that others can share their wealth building strategies as well. But what we also do is we make real estate investing accessible to everyone pretty much. So in the past, if you were to invest in a commercial project, we invest in commercial real estate now, it would really only be reserved for the very wealthy because of some of the laws of being an accredited investor. And then you had to have access. You had to know who the people were. And generally their buy-in or the amount that you had to put up to invest was pretty substantial. So we make it accessible, but not just accessible, but we're also opening the door to the investing by educating our investors and being transparent about what goes on, so they can be as involved as they want to, or they can just be completely, stay on the sides and just, be a part of the co-ownership group.
I love it. I love it. That's great. So what brands do you particularly invest in, and where are they located?
So right now we have Marriott and Hilton in our portfolio. We're not opposed to investing in other brands, and also we would invest in boutique. But right now we have Hilton, two Hiltons in the Maryland area, and a Marriott in Charlotte, and a Marriott here in Maryland, or not, I'm in Virginia now, but in Maryland. So two in Maryland, and then we have the property in Charlotte, which we bought last year.
Nice, nice. And I think Jan has some questions to do more of a deeper dive about how you're educating young folks. Jan, I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay, yeah, I just want to say congratulations on the sale of that property.
Yes.
That's fantastic. And you talked about shoes. Now tell me that you're still not buying shoes. You're buying
I'm
shoes.
Still buying shoes, but not just shoes, right? Like not as many shoes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know once you start buying shoes, it's hard to kind of back off from them.
Yeah.
But
Well, I think the important lesson that I tell a lot of those that I mentor is that, I mean, you can have nice things and you should, but if you have a goal, I think what happened for me is I had a goal. Like once I understood and did my homework and educated myself, I had a goal. I knew what I was aiming for. So the shoes were no longer as attractive, right? Because I had a goal. I knew that if I could get to a certain number of properties, I had, my worksheets, and I knew how many properties I needed at what, price point in order to get to the financial freedom where, that all my expenses were covered by my properties. So the shoes just didn't look as exciting,
understand.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
So Tracy, I know that you do a lot with young people. I know in one of the meetings that we had with the investors that I teamed with, we brought some children in, some students in from some of the DC schools that were taking some hospitality type of courses or whatever. So what do you tell the youngsters? What do you tell the parents? What is it that you want to give them, impart to them as far as a hospitality career, possibly even future ownership of hotels?
Sure. So I actually just spoke to a group last week, young ladies, in this program called TGIF. And one of the things I was telling them, they were all, I think, in high school, but to start early. I mean, there's no reason why they can't potentially start early, even if they all get together, right, and form a group and buy a condo or a single family home. In fact, we talked about perhaps they were all going to college. Maybe they could get together and buy something, and they're going to be on campus for 4 years. Buy something and rent out the other rooms or something. But, start as early as you can, because you have a lot more time to continue to build that wealth. And also, for cycles, you have time for cycles and to work through all the cycles. But my message to them was just don't think that you're too young to start, or don't think about, oh, I don't have the money. Just figure out how, use the word, how can I, and get creative and innovative and talk to others that are willing to share. And of course, they have the internet. So there's a lot that they can learn on the internet. So of course, educate yourself first, and then, take action. The big thing is to take action. So as I saw that the doors are much wider open for the younger generation, as long as they are exposed to, opportunities, and if they're educated about it. So I recently started or created an organization called She Has a Deal. Mm-hmm. And what She Has a Deal does is, our vision is to create new pathways to hotel ownership and development for women. So there's not a lot of women in the field of real estate development as a whole. Our focus is on hospitality, but we'll expand it later to other asset classes. But what we're trying to do with She Has a Deal is, number one, we want to expose and inspire these young women right as they're finishing up their education, that this career opportunity exists. So they not only have to or could go work for someone, and they probably will start out that way, but they can actually own. And I was very surprised that there were women who were in real estate programs and hospitality programs who were planning to go work for either owners or the brands or asset managers, and they never thought about ownership as a track. But they were like, I didn't even think about it until you mentioned it. So we knew that we achieved that goal, which was to expose and inspire them. And then a very critical component is education. So we provide education to those women. They go through, it was a 4-month education modules. We created a 9-stage methodology for hotel investment that we take them through, and then we introduce them to luminaries in the field that can provide them wisdom and knowledge about hotel investing. What we wanted to do was to really create that community and connect them with people that can be mentors and sponsors to them as they go on their journey, help them catapult, into the field. And so we're introducing them through education and wisdom, so that, again, they are basically uplifted, into the industry with a new mindset and new goals. So I told them all, I expect 10 years from now that they, as women, would be some of the top hotel developers in the country that we could name now that are out there that are not women, but they would be because of what they're investing in themselves today, that they, have the opportunity to do that. And so because we're looking to create new pathways to ownership, we, through sponsorship with Marriott and Hilton, they're founding sponsors of She Has a Deal. The winning team, we sponsor a pitch competition, and where the women go out and they find a deal and they analyze it and put together a presentation, and then they pitch the deal to a panel of judges who are luminaries or different professionals in the field. And then the winning team receives $50,000 in deal equity. So they're automatically, just by winning, they become hotel owners with all the rights and benefits of ownership, from distributions to capital gains, to all of the benefits that you, Jan, you have as an owner and the property that we co-own. So it's great. Unfortunately, with COVID, we were postponed. We were supposed to have the finals in April. We're now scheduled to have those in October, and we do hope to be able to do it live. If not, we'll definitely have to go, we'll go virtual. We're going to provide it virtual access, but we do hope that we can come together with the women, because a big part of it is mentorship and sponsorship. And so we hope that we can have that networking opportunity with them.
So before
I love it.
I just gotta clap because that's amazing. I love it.
Yeah,
absolutely inspiring. Oh my goodness. Yes.
Yeah. Can I just add something to that?
Yes.
So, we had our prelims. So we had 14 teams that were accepted, 28 women for those teams, and they were scheduled to pitch their prelims in March, and it was the 25th of March, I believe. So of course everything shut down that couple weeks before, and we knew that they were prepared because their presentations had to be submitted, I think, around the 14th of March. But we weren't sure if it was the right time, given what's going on in the industry, and with them being displaced from school and having to go home, if we should do it. And I spoke with every single one of them, and they all were like, please, like, it is the only bright part of my day right now. Their graduations were canceled, all of the things that they were looking forward to in their senior year, the ones that were seniors. So we went ahead with it. And I will tell you, I was in probably a little bit of a dark place myself, given what was happening to our properties, but we went ahead with it. And I have to tell you that these women were amazing. They were so bright. They did such an excellent job. Now, think about it. They found these deals. We didn't give them the deals. They went out, hit the pavement. We taught them how to search for deals and look for a deal and everything along that whole, roadmap to hotel ownership. But they went out and found the deal, and, they did the analysis. We had everything from a boutique hotel rebranding in Brooklyn to a adaptive reuse, a bank building in Detroit. That they wanted to make an autograph. There were some phenomenal pitches. And I sat there thinking, oh my goodness, what business can I start and hire every single one of these ladies? Because they were so smart. You would think that they had been doing this as a career. So it's really exciting. I can't wait to be able to share them, with the industry, with the world, because they are our future. They are our future leaders. So.
That's amazing, Tracy. That is so amazing. It's interesting because when I go to a Marriott property, wherever, and I present my little certificate that gives me my discounted room, if there's a African-American male or female who's waiting on me, they have questions about what am I doing with that? Well, not really in that aspect, in that manner. They're curious. So then I have to, of course, tell them I'm a Marriott owner. So they're like, wow, how do you get to do that? And I even, I think I introduced you to one of those individuals that I spoke to when I was at the Marriott Marquis here in Washington, D.C., getting a room one night. And I think you all had a conversation. But yeah, so when I see them out there at the counters, I'm trying to talk to them. And I loved what you said about, like going to college, the roommates. I mean, they could get their heads together and buy their own place and form a partnership. That's wonderful. That's wonderful advice.
Yeah.
I appreciate you sharing that. Another thing that I noticed that, you really try to focus too somewhat on, minorities. Why is it important that minorities pay attention to what you're doing and what you're saying, and especially minority women?
Well, we all know there's a wealth gap between people of color, also and women, and we have to catch up. Unfortunately, the systemic racism that existed and still exists somewhat today has left us behind. And I don't remember all the numbers, but I've done a lot of reading about what the average net worth is for a woman versus a male, a woman of color versus women of other races, and it's awful. It's awful. I mean, it's really unfortunate that there's such a big gap. And so, while there is some systemic racism, we still have so many opportunities that don't hold us back. And so, really, we have to do all that we can with what we have to close the gap, and if we're not even talking about the gap, just to take care of ourselves and our families. I know that more, when you say especially women, more women are staying single longer, right? Or they're not getting married at all, or their spouses tend to die before they do, right? And depending on the situation, you may be left to live for 20, 30 years, after a spouse dies, and you may or may not have enough to live off of, during that time frame. So depending on what your profession is and your retirement savings, you may have some substantial gaps. And so figure out what your wealth vehicle is going to be and invest now. Because, when I said I've been here for 20 something years, when I think about it, it's over 20 years, I'm thinking how fast that time went by. And had I not managed my fear of investing, where I would be, right? Because the 20 years goes by so fast, and I'm, not young anymore. And I'm thinking about, I'm really on my end of the third quarter, right? I got one more quarter. And that quarter, I'm not supposed to be working, right? Exactly. That quarter, I'm supposed to be laying back and enjoying, grandkids and all of that, right? And so it's really important for all of us to think about, what is going to be our wealth vehicle that's going to sustain us, and hopefully have enough left over to leave for our next generation, for our loved ones, so that our children have a step up, right? So they don't, I know I started at the very beginning. My son will probably never have to start at the beginning, even, if it wasn't about the cash. At least he listens and hears what's going on in our house when we talk about knowledge, what's going on. So as an example, when we first, bought our first hotel, we were at the hotel and we were walking in and doing the tour, and he said, "Why did we buy this hotel?" and so, it's that exposure that it's possible. And I explained to him, even though he was, 3 or 4 years old, right? But they pick up more than you think. Another example, we were driving in a car. This is actually, I was putting him to bed, and he said, "Mommy, what's a good asset manager?" No, he said, "What's an asset manager?" And I said, "Where'd you get that from? What do you know about an asset manager?" He said, "I heard you and Mr. Kevin, who is one of my business partners, talking about you needed to be a good asset manager." And I was just wondering, and this was weeks later, and I'm like, "What do you know about an asset manager?" So they're listening, right? And so while it was a big deal for me to buy a Hampton Inn, he may go out and buy a Four Seasons or build a Four Seasons, right? Or something of that scale because he's been exposed. And so, we'll figure out how to educate him on access to the capital, which is, one of the areas that is a barrier for people of color, as, due to systemic racism, as well as women. Women, as you probably know, I think women, we couldn't even get a loan for our own business until, was it the 70s, late 70s, or maybe it might have even been early 80s, where women could not get a loan for their entrepreneurial endeavors unless their husband signed for it, or some crazy stuff, right? So we're constantly left behind. So now that we should, really take advantage of that.
Right. Great. Ronette, I think you have something to ask along those lines.
Thank you. And, a lot's going on in our world right now with about diversity and inclusion. And so in your climb to success, were there doors that would close to you or tables you were not included in because you were an African-American woman?
Ronette, that is a very good question. So I just have to give a little history. My parents moved out of the city in the 70s. And so I grew up in an all white neighborhood. There was maybe one other Black family, which I think was my aunt. And so, I know that I definitely faced blatant racism when I was younger. We were called the N-word, and I remember having pajama parties and certain people couldn't come, and it was, they were busy, but then I later found out it was because we were Black. And I know that the racism there was pretty evident, but as a child, you don't necessarily recognize certain things. And so my perspective is very different because I've always, grown up around being the only and probably experiencing discrimination that I just didn't really see. So today, I'm sure that there are doors that are not open to me, but I try not to really look at it as discrimination. And I just try to bring the best of who Tracy is and what I have to offer. I think that they probably do underestimate us. And so that's almost a better position to be in sometimes when they're underestimating you. So I can't say for sure that, doors were closed because of, being African-American or not. I do know that there's probably tables that I'm not invited to. And it could be a just comfort level or who knows, but I can't really say. I just try to focus on being the best that I can and doing what I want to do.
I love that.
I'm sorry, Ronette, because I just wanted to comment on that because, my experience has been very similar to yours, because I get that question a lot. And I cannot say specifically that a door was closed to me because of, my race or my gender. Like you say, it's very possible, but as far as being blatant and in my face, I can't rightly say that. So, I understand that. I definitely understand that. Go ahead, Ronette.
So I was going to say, in reference to that, I love, you be the best Tracy that you can be. Is there anything that sticks out from a family member, your mom or dad, that said, you know what, you can do it, you're strong? Are there any words of encouragement that you go back to that someone said to you to keep you going?
Yeah. Well, I always think about, my parents were, if you think about how brave they were, right? To leave the city. This was 1970 in St. Louis, okay? So I always remember my mother talking about saving up all her money. Like she worked, but my father's, pay went for the house and everything, but her money went to savings so that she could buy this house that we, had in the county. It was the county, in St. Louis, they live in the county. And believe it or not, we had that house. We just sold that house last year. My parents both were deceased. We just sold the family house. We rented it for a few years and then sold it. But, my parents were very encouraging. Like they made us feel like we were like better than everybody else. Like sometimes I'm like, oh, we're not that great, Mom. We're not. I went to college. I'm like, I don't think I'm that great. But they were always super encouraging that you can do whatever you want to do. You have to put the time in, get the job done. But when I was thinking about that question, where you were relating it to, were there the words of wisdom, if there was discrimination. And one thing my mother used to say, it's kind of funny, but she used to say, one monkey don't run no show. And I laugh at, my mother's deceased now, and I always laugh about that. And I even think about that. I use it a lot, you say, what your parents said. But, what that meant to me was, if there was one person who was holding you back from reaching someone, move on, right? I mean, they're not the only ones who hold the key to your success. So if, I've experienced this with commercial real estate, if one lender says, no, or, I mean, we truly, I remember being on a call with a lender, and I was on with one of my business partners, and he said, well, you guys, your resumes look good and everything, but let's just face it, none of you really have any money or experience. Okay, well, thank you very much. Goodbye, right? Because, I mean, why am I going to spend time trying to convince him of the value that we have to bring to the table to this industry? So let's just go on. Thanks for the, letting us know what you're thinking and not dragging us through the process. Let me go to the next person. And eventually, you will find somebody who will believe in you. And I have, I have a lender who believed in me twice, gave me 2 loans, and has been very supportive. So it really only takes 1 or 2 people to really believe in you and help you. So it would be that one monkey don't run no show.
Love it.
And then the other quote I always think about, and I can't remember where I was first introduced, but it was Dr. Martin Luther King, right? He said, if you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. If you can't crawl, then just keep moving forward. So everything I'm trying to do, I'm like, okay, let me just make some progress on it and figure out, the how can I get there, and just take a little, a few steps at a time. And, you can't be mad at yourself, or, if you've tried, right, and you've made some progress.
Right.
I love it.
Wow.
Yeah. I think my father used to say, one monkey doesn't stop a show.
Don't stop a show.
But it all means the same thing, So yeah, I used to hear that as well in my household. So, for sure.
There are many of those kind of sayings in our house.
Yes, exactly. I know.
Yeah.
So Tracy, I know, and that in the business that you're in, there are some not so honest brokers out there. I mean, you have a great character, and I enjoy doing business with you. And sometimes it doesn't take you long when you're talking to people or meeting with people. And but how does our listeners get into when they get into these development deals? How do they know who's legitimate or not? Is there anything that you can point to that says, look out for this or watch for that? Or it may be difficult, but I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I think it is difficult. The number one lesson I've learned is just don't be too eager to invest and get in. Be diligent, but not too eager, and do your homework. And I know people say, well, what does that really mean? What's the homework? What do I do? You're going to have to trust your gut instinct in many instances, but do your homework, talk to different people, more than one person, and find out about that person and the business dealings that they've done. Even search Google and check records, lawsuits and things like that. I mean, just do something. I know it's not foolproof, but try to get as much information as you can. And then you have to use your gut instinct as to how you feel about a particular person. If you're having apprehension, don't do it. I mean, just don't do it. I think we tend to, second guess our gut instincts sometimes, right? So you have to separate the fear, what the fear is, versus the gut instinct. And anytime I've not listened to my gut instinct, there was a problem. And I'm like, dang it, I knew, but I was trying to figure out if it was the fear or if it was actually something real. So I would just say, try to find out as much as you can, maybe even take your time, maybe court the person, right? As opposed to jump right in perhaps. But I would, I definitely know that you have to partner if you're going to be successful in all businesses. You just have to figure out, who's the right partner for you. And maybe a partner that works really great for someone else may not be good for you. It depends on your personality and what your goals are. So number one is trust your gut instinct. And number two is, I say paperwork. Like, I don't think handshakes in this world, for big things like investing are good. I think that you got to have paperwork because so as an example, I had someone invest with me way before I started doing commercial. He said, "Oh, Tracy, I trust you, your family. I don't need anything." But I'm like, "Look, this is for you, because say something happens to me. What my estate is not going to say, oh, you shook hands with Tracy and you own part of that hotel, or it was a house. You loaned her money for this house." They're not going to, if it's not in writing, it didn't happen, right? So I'd say get everything in writing, but make sure you understand what all those terms and conditions mean, so that if you do run into a problem, you do have some recourse. Just so be savvy. I know it takes extra time to read those legal documents and more time to understand them, but I've been through situations, so I would say that it definitely is to your benefit to make sure that you have some type of legal document outlining your interests, your ownership interests, and how certain things should play out should, something not be in accordance to what you thought it would be.
Okay, good. Ronette, I know we have some questions out there from some of the people coming in. Do you want to read one?
Yes.
Okay.
So Tracy, one of our folks asked, "I would love to get my granddaughter involved with your mentorship program, but she graduated from college 2 years ago. Are other women outside of high school involved in your program?"
So our program is for college students. So it's for college students and graduate students. So if she goes to shehasadeal.com, she should follow us. We're on Instagram and we're on LinkedIn. She should follow us because we'll be putting out 2021 events and opportunities for 2021. But she should just, so she just graduated from high school or college?
College.
Oh,
2 years ago. 2 years ago. She graduated from college 2 years ago.
Okay. So, well, of course, so she wouldn't qualify for the pitch competition, but we're going to be expanding and offering more. In fact, I'm working on an initiative right now, but I'm not going to talk about it yet. But she should definitely follow us so that when we do make announcements about some of the programs that we're going to be doing, that she'll be first to know about them.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you. That was the only question. Go ahead, Jan.
Okay. So should she follow you on shehasadeal.com, the www?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So we have at She Has a Deal for Instagram, and LinkedIn is She Has a Deal. But they can also go onto our website as well and, connect with us through the website as well.
Okay. Okay, great. Now, are you involved at all with, somebody says, well, can I get a job at one of your hotels? That's not what you do, right? I mean, how does that work?
Sure. So we do have a third-party manager for our hotels. And so the employees apply with the management company. So if someone's interested in a job, they can contact the hotel directly, though, because of course, we're always looking for good talent. Particularly, we need people in what we call cleanliness, which is housekeeping, but cleanliness is a big focus of ours. So we're always looking for housekeeping staff as well as front desk clerks. And so I would just contact the hotels directly, and they can apply, and I'm sure they'll get calls when availability comes about.
Okay. Now, one thing I learned, as an owner is that, when I walk in a hotel and I see the people working there, I'm thinking that they're working for Marriott or Hilton or whoever the chain is. Mm-hmm. And as you just mentioned, they actually work for a management company, correct?
Yeah, there are instances where Marriott could be the property manager.
Okay.
And so then they would work for Marriott, which is a separate organization than the Marriott, the franchisor, right? But yes, in general, they would work for the management company. However, there's different structures. In general, it'd be the third party management company. And one of my hotels, we actually have a structure where the employees actually work for our company, although they're managed by a third party. So there's different models out there. And we're working on some transitional things with management. So that's why we set it up like that. But in general, they don't work for Marriott or the franchisor unless it's managed by the franchisor.
Okay. Right now, so now you talked about you're in real estate, and we talked about hotels, but are there other areas of real estate that you're involved with?
Not right now, but when I was full-time working in the industry, in the healthcare industry, I dealt with healthcare real estate, like medical office buildings, surgery centers. So my goal is to add those to the portfolio in coming years. In fact, I wish I would have been focused on that before this year. It wasn't, I didn't make it a priority, was very focused on growing the hospitality portfolio. Would have been good to have a little bit of healthcare right about now in the portfolio, but we will be adding healthcare types of assets to our portfolio. So we have a fund that we'll be raising for. It's been open. We just haven't publicly raised for that fund yet. And I'm looking at potentially mixing that with hospitality and healthcare, just for more diversification, given, what we know can happen. Potentially we'll mix up the fund so that basically the investors in the fund would have ownership in multiple assets, not just, one hotel or one medical office building or whatever type of healthcare asset that we focus on. We're looking at surgery centers as an option because there's definitely continues to be a demand for outpatient surgeries, and we'll see that into the future. And of course, a lot of people learned that having surgeries outside of the hospital during COVID was an advantage. But, again, I've always been interested in healthcare real estate. I just have not, gotten there yet. And one of the reasons why I did choose hospitality to start on the commercial journey is because hotels, there are branded hotels, it's easier, I'll just use the word easier to get financing for a branded hotel than it would be to get financing for, say, a no-name medical office building. So when you're, getting into the tens of millions of dollars, lenders feel more comfortable that, if you're buying a branded product, that if you mess it up, then they'll just take it and go, and someone else can just step right in. It's just a little bit less risk to it. And that was when I started my journey of commercial real estate. I literally was told by some of the health systems that, we only, work with people who have net worth of X or, have been in the business for X that. So I thought, well, okay, that's fine. I like hospitality. I want to do hospitality. I can start there first, get my foot in the ground and get the experience and go from there.
Okay. So Tracy, I'm not going to cut you off quite yet, but we're going to, I think we have until like 6 o'clock and then it's going to shut us off. But okay. I would like to, we're going to have you back on again because we've got so many other questions that we weren't able to get to because there's just so much information, but great information. But I do want, Ronette, I think there's another question in the chat. I do want to make sure that we answer the questions that are coming through, and then we'll absolutely have to invite you back again, if you don't mind. We would
love to. So thank you again, but just really quick, I'm going to make this 2 questions. One was, do you plan to invest in boutique hotels? And also, can you give us a quick overview of NABHood before we're shut down?
Yes, believe it or not, I wanted to create a brand, a boutique hotel. Like when I thought about being in the hotel business, again, I didn't think I could get funding for a boutique hotel. Now that some of the brands have soft brands where they can put their their name on the boutique hotel gives you a little bit more access to capital. But everything's changing, so I think that we might do something sooner than later on the boutique front. So we'll see. We'll see if that'll come soon. And then the second question was about NABHOOD, you said?
Mm-hmm. Can you tell us a little bit about what it is?
Yeah, so NABHOOD is the National Association of Hotel Owners, Operators, and Developers. And it's an organization whose mission is to increase the number of hotel owners, operators, and developers. And so they host a conference and bring people together, to share knowledge and, uplift other Blacks in the industry, as well as, helping students who are in hospitality to get internships and scholarships and things of that nature. So when I first decided that I wanted to focus on hotels, I was introduced to NABHOOD. So the first education that I received from hotels, I went to a NABHOOD conference many years ago.
So I also understand that NABHOOD on their website, they have a list by state of all African-American owned hotels, yes, in case people want to stay in an African-American owned hotel. And I'd also like for you to tell people where your properties are in case they want to stay in one of your hotels.
Sure. So we have the properties that TLT Solutions manages in our portfolio. We have 2 in Waldorf, Maryland. We have a Hampton Inn and a Courtyard. And then in Charlotte, right outside of Charlotte, North Charlotte, we have a 4 Points Sheraton. So those are the ones we have right now. But keep watching. We'll have hopefully more in the near future as we are definitely look to grow and expand with our fund.
Thank you so much, Tracy. You don't know how much we appreciate you being here with us today. And if anyone has any additional questions they want to ask that we weren't able to take or you didn't think about, we do have a Gmail account set up, Business Monday JR@gmail. That's Jan and Ronette, businessmondayjr@gmail.com. Shoot us your questions and we'll get some answers back to you. But we have to have you back again, Tracy. We just really appreciate you being here.
Thanks for inviting me. It was a pleasure. You guys make a great team and you're both very inspiring entrepreneurs yourselves. I admire both of you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And have a good rest of the day and be safe.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And I have to applaud you again because you're amazing.
That was amazing. Absolutely.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you, Tracy.
Blessed evening.
Okay, you too.
Take care. Bye-bye.
All right. So, Ronette. In part, that was just truly amazing. One thing I wanted to say in our wrap up was something about the coronavirus that I learned today that I think I need to share with our listeners. It took 99 days to reach 1 million cases. It took 43 days to reach 2 million cases. It took 28 days to reach 3 million cases. And it only took 15 days to reach 4 million cases. So we want to make sure that you all just remember that. Be safe out there, wear your masks, wash your hands, and do what you need to do to remain safe so that we can see you again next Business Monday.
I love it. Thank you, Jen. Love you.
I love you too, Ronette. You too as well. Thank you.
Yes.
Everybody have a wonderful rest of the week. Take care.
Yes. Thank you.